Have you ever wondered what food your brain absolutely loves and needs? What feeds it the density of the nutrients that are able to cross the blood-brain barrier to your most important and complex organ? I'm in the Bordeaux region. I'm here in France, and I'm with David Goutot, and he is an expert on the mind diet. He is an expert on the powerful antioxidants that are polyphenols. Many of you have heard of them. They come from all sorts of berries, and he has dedicated his life and his life's work and the work of all of his researchers. He has neuroscientists, all sorts of different PhDs and experts. He works with numerous universities all around the world, and it has everything to do with brain food, brain nutrients, and your health. So I'm really excited to ask him a couple of questions, and I can't wait for you to learn this information. And you're going to be able to apply what you hear today immediately to reduce cognitive decline. In fact, we're going to talk about an ingredient that literally can reduce your cognitive decline by up to 50%. David, it's so awesome to be here with you. Thank you for having us at your amazing facility.
No, we are really pleased to welcome you here in France, in Bordeaux area. And the beginning of our story, in fact, is a family story.
It's a family story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my grandma, she told me a few years ago, before I created the company, that in order to prevent cognitive decline and emotion with my own grandma, she gave her some red wine. And at the beginning, I said, okay, this is my grandma. She didn't go to school quite long, in fact. And 2 months later, in fact, there was a publication, scientific publication from Bordeaux University regarding cognitive decline and consumption of flavonoids, which are a very specific family in the polyphenol components. You have more than 8,000 different molecules in the polyphenols, and the flavonoids are very specific.
So there are over 8,000 different types of polyphenols that have been identified.
Yeah, today, but in fact there are much more even. That's at least 8,000.
And of those 8,000, all of the research that you and your team have been doing, you identified how many that really feed the brain?
I mean, there are quite a lot of them, but very few, in fact, are that important. I would say, and some researchers I'm working with at Bordeaux University call them essential polyphenols.
Essential polyphenols, or brain berries?
You can call them brain berries if you want. In fact, you will find this type of polyphenols in type of berries, but not all the berries. And more specifically with grape berries.
With the grape berries.
Definitely. You will find, for instance, the monomers, which are very specific molecules. They're very small, and they're highly bioavailable, more than 85%, compared to other polyphenols such as anthocyanins that you will call, for instance, the grape.
Right.
Or
so let's talk about that for a second. So for example, with resveratrol, how much bioavailability is there in resveratrol typically?
It's really low. I mean, less than 1%. So, I mean,
less than 1% in the resveratrol. And so we know how difficult it is to create the bioavailability. That's always the challenge with resveratrol. And you're saying with these types of polyphenols, antioxidants from the grape, the monomers, that there's an 85% availability to our body. And what you mean is it crossing the blood-brain barrier?
So some of them will cross the blood-brain barrier, which is crucial.
Amazing.
Because, I mean, the brain is an organ. You have to be aware about this. And there is a protection, which is a blood-brain barrier. Not all the molecules will cross this blood-brain barrier. And in fact, with the monomers of flavonols, they will cross. And also they're metabolized. And it will act in different ways, but for instance in neurogenesis, in protection regarding peptide beta-amyloid plaques and stuff like that. So it's crucial to have this type of molecules that you will find in your food, in your diet.
So it's really, really fascinating. And I want to share with everyone sort of your process of how you conclude that these particular types of polyphenols are so good for our health. I mean, a lot of people know from watching my channel and so forth that citrus bergamot is an amazing flavonoid. and there are polyphenols that are also actually, like I call them power phenols because they activate the autophagy in our body. But these monomers that we get from specific foods are able, like for example, probably turmeric. I know turmeric crosses the blood-brain barrier, but talk to us about your favorite sources of monomers that are coming from the food. Like what could people who are watching eat today or drink today that would have a beneficial effect on their most important organ, the brain?
So just to explain why we are speaking about monomers and then grape, it's because we have to copy nature. Nature is where we find the solution. We don't need to invent, we just need to copy it. And the best way to do this type of copy is to watch what was going on with epidemiological studies. Clinical studies that without any intervention, just watch people. For instance, at the beginning of this type of studies, you ask people what do they eat, what is cognitive function and so on. So you make this type of evaluation, and then you follow them during a long period. So for instance, 10 years, 15 years, and then you can make a relationship between what they had in their diet and what is their cognitive decline. And what we realize, in fact, depending on your food, you can have not at all the same type of cognitive decline. To have a cognitive decline is something normal, but it can go faster in certain way or slower. And if you have typically very specific flavonoids in your diet, coming from, for instance, with of course, a lot of different berries, but it can be also with, some not a huge amount of red wine, of course, due to the alcohol, but just drink two glasses of red wine per day is nice, regarding, cognitive decline. But you have also some other flavonoids coming from olive oil or stuff like that. You can imagine different stuff. At the end of the day, what we realized, and the publication we did last year, in 2018, is that of course, you can decrease this cognitive decline with the food, and especially with the polyphenols coming from the grape.
That's remarkable. You know, Dr. Hollenberg from Harvard did a 25-year observational study on the indigenous kuna, and I've been, I met with him in 2011, and I've spent a lot of time with this indigenous community, and what they were consuming was cacao, the active flavonols and polyphenols and epicatechins from the cacao on a daily basis. They'd be drinking 2, 3, 4, 5 cups of this cocoa water, essentially. And then he observed over these 25 years that they had like 1/9 the rate of age-related diseases as the individuals that were living on the mainland. So when you're talking about drinking 1 or 2 glasses of red wine, and of course we can drink a sulfite-free red wine, which is a dry wine, right? And we're going to have some of that at lunch in a couple minutes.
I hope so.
Yeah, I brought some, and I'm sure there's some also at the vineyard. But at the end of the day, like you said, being able to consume these powerful brain berries in different formats can have a huge impact on our cognitive decline.
Yeah, definitely. It's, this is the only way today. Of course, food and the diet is crucial to prevent from a cognitive decline. This is the best thing you can do for yourself. Just have a diet, and a well-balanced diet, including a lot of fruits and vegetables, but not all equal. You will find, for instance, some polyphenols in potatoes. It's not all the same type of molecules that you will find, for instance, in grape or in chocolate or stuff like that. So definitely you have to select your proper food in order to increase what I would say is the density, the nutritional density of your diet. It's not necessary to increase that much, but if you could do every day this type of increase, I can tell you, you will have a better future.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your understanding of nature, your understanding of these extended studies on consumption of food. As a food scientist who's dedicated to polyphenols, it is such an honor and a privilege to be able to learn this kind of information from you and to see how you connect the dots. And the research that you're doing is so exciting. I can't wait to learn more.
Thank you.